Today's message comes from John chapter 10, verse 10, and it reads as follows. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I, Jesus that is, came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Today's message is entitled Rethinking or Rethink Abundance. So for me, as I take a look at this particular verse in John, one of the things that stands out to me is abundance and how Jesus speaks of having abundance or speaks to us about abundance. And one of the things I measured as I look at this particular passage is what is the difference between the abundance we know and the abundance Jesus is speaking about or trying to get his point across in. So how exactly do we define abundance? Abundance is usually defined by the world as acquiring or having a ton of resources or assets. For example, oftentimes we have a perverted view on attaining riches, whether it relates to money, cars, clothes, and I think it's actually draining our spiritual connection to God, which Jesus speaks out against. One of the things I'm reminded of is when I graduated college, one of the things I wanted to obtain or have an abundance is in clothes and shoes. So naturally, just like the kids today, I stand online for a pair of Jordans. So taking a look at these particular Jordans, these were one of my favorites, the one with the reflective tongue. But if you notice, they actually turned yellow. Not sure what actually happened. I kept them in the box, kept them wrapped up, and I would only wear these on special occasions. And then, after a year or two of having them, I opened the box one day and it was like, what in the world happened to my J's? Now, I guess it's this particular type of mesh, or this gum sole or this gummy mesh that if you have it for a long period of time, it turns yellow or it turns this funky color. So as you can see, Jordans cost a lot. They're over $100. Down the drain. So although I thought I was having an abundance in sneakers and clothes and things like that, ultimately what happens is that stuff dies or it goes away. Even in looking at some of my recent clothes, styles tend to shift and change. So you'll have a lot of clothes or you'll have a lot of shoes and then all of a sudden it'll go out of style. And then we feel like we don't have an abundance of quote unquote things, mainly because they're not in style anymore. So we're stuck. So when we put all of our being and all of our soul and effort to acquiring, these things that fleet and that die, that go away, ultimately we're taking and we're wasting our energy. And I don't think that's what Jesus means when he speaks about abundance. We must not place our energy or desires in things that ultimately die. We'll never have enough money. No matter how much money we get, there's always going to be something else that we want. There's always going to be something else that we want to buy. Now, I'm not saying money is a bad thing because it does help to provide for others and it helps to provide resources. But when we focus on that solely, I think it's a bad thing. We'll also, like I mentioned before, we'll never have enough clothes or shoes because ultimately that stuff is going to go out of style. We might slim down. We might gain weight. So some of that stuff is not going to fit after a while anyway. And what we ultimately must do is place our value in things that cannot be stolen or things that don't fade out or die. Your abundance cannot be tied to any earthly possessions. Being in a state of abundance is being in a state of or seeing positive things in all situations. And that's what one of the things that Jesus actually talks about. So according to Jesus, what I wanted to do is just lay out some of the ways he shows us abundance throughout the Gospels. Jesus was often speaking to those who were poor in spirit, poor in resources. So here are three messages he often gave those in these particular circumstances. He told them to be grateful for everything that they had. He also tried to place them in a position to where they would have a connection to God. And he also tried to teach the community to share resources with one another. Now, for us, some of that, it's interesting because these particular points that I just laid out, that Jesus lays out throughout the Gospels, if we look at the media doesn't tell us this. The media tells us to stack all of our resources, to stack our paper. We're distracted. We may not have a connection to God. And although, we may be grateful for some of the things we have, everything we see on a day-to-day basis tells us to get more and more and more. And it's not necessarily telling us to get more of things that we actually need or things that will, I think, value us or give value to us in the long run. So what I want to do is shift the areas we could look for or seek abundance. Now, there are 4 areas where there are unlimited abundance. First, our connection to God. We could connect to God at any given time. We could pray, we can meditate, and we have to realize that our relationship with God, of course, it depends on our communication with God, but it's a great thing that there are no requirements or no pre-existing things we have to do to actually to connect with God. So we have unlimited connection with God. So it's really up to us to develop this relationship, which we can have an abundance of. So our connection to the Creator is unlimited potential for that connection. Also, another area where abundance is unlimited, is loving unconditionally. Of course, the scriptures tell us to love God and love ourselves and love our neighbors. We know that. But I think if we were in a place of loving unconditionally and showing this and spreading this love to whoever we come across, regardless of whether or not we've had altercations with them, how they look, whether there's some preconceived issues with them, whether or not we've been hearing about these particular persons or these particular groups. If we love unconditionally, I suspect and fully believe that when we put out that energy, the same energy God puts out to us, I think we'll ultimately get that back and we'll experience joy and the same happiness that we give out. Along those lines, another area where abundance is unlimited is helping others. There are plenty of people that we can help out. There are homeless people, there are people in need, whether it's, there's the working poor. And the thing about helping people, oftentimes we feel that we have to have money to help people. Don't need money to help people. You could actually use your time. And actually, we don't even have to use a whole bunch of time when we help people. It could just be a matter of encouraging somebody, speaking nice words to somebody, or just even giving somebody a smile. So there's an abundance of options or abundance of opportunity to actually help people. Another area where abundance is unlimited is being content. Now, Paul tells us that we're supposed to be content in all situations. Now, this may be a tough sell because I know, we may face situations that may be tough. Our work environments may be a little bit tricky or a little bit tough. Our home environments may be tough. But if we look to follow some of the scriptures and focus on God and focus on loving unconditionally and also focus on helping others, I suspect that we'll be able to move to a place of contentment in any particular circumstance that we face. And with these 4 particular areas, our return on investment is actually unlimited. And see, the thing that gets tricky about this, ultimately, sometimes we want to see tangible things when we invest, or we associate something that we could touch and feel with having an abundance of things. But I would argue that when we focus on a connection with God, loving unconditionally, helping others, and being content, what we will receive back is unlimited joy. So regardless of any circumstances or situations you're going through, if you focus on these 4 particular areas, when you receive back that joy, anything's possible. You could change your mind about any difficulty you're going through. Your situations, whether it's related to health, mental health, or physical health, I suspect that stuff will change. Well, I don't suspect it will change. I know it will change. And Paul actually says it like this: "Not that I am referring to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little. I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. But I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And when he refers to him, he's referring to what he knows or who he knows as Jesus and also God. So for us, I think that if we use Jesus as an example of abundance and not these worldly definitions, I suspect that we could not only change how our energy is or how our joy is, but when we give unconditionally, when we love unconditionally, when we connect to God, and when we're content in all situations and all circumstances, what we put out there or what we reflect to the world will not only change other people's situations, but it'll also change our situation and give us unlimited joy as well. So there it is. Hopefully this was helpful to you. I wanted to get us to a place to where we could actually rethink our abundance. Hopefully, as you see this video and watch this video, you'll be able to kind of take a step back and look at some of the places where you're focusing your energy. Hopefully, you'll be able to kind of take a step back and notice that, some of the places where I think I have an abundance or I'm being, in a place where I'm putting a lot of energy to acquiring abundance. Hopefully with this message, you'll see that if you put your energies and efforts into some of these other areas which I've mentioned, that not only will you receive joy back, but you could also give joy to the world. Peace and blessings, and my prayer for you is that you will be successful in everything that you do. I pray for a changing or renewing of your mind, and I pray that for anybody struggling with the idea of maybe acquiring goods or not having enough resources, will realize that you can, connect with God at any time, and God will actually not satisfy you, but put you in a mind state or put you in a place to where when you rely on Him and realize that, you have access to this unlimited power and this unlimited presence of His Spirit, that you'll be able to succeed in everything that you do, and you'll also be able to pass that success to others that you come across. Peace and blessings. My name is Terrell Harris. Thanks.